Love you, Linda. Love you.
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
And welcome to Justice Served TV. Good to have you along. I'm Michael Bryant. Hi, Linda Kenny Bodden.
Hi, I'm Michael Bryant. A little rip and read going on today.
Wait, I can't. I got to get to the fancy graphic.
Let's go to the fancy graphic before I discuss, because then I want after we do that, I want to talk about the shooting that happened behind here.
Okay, here we go. Okay, a couple of headlines. You want to start? Go ahead and start.
Yeah, let me start with it. But let me start with the shooting that happened here yesterday. As you know, my office right here in Midtown, and we were actually on the air at 6:28 when the first 911 call came in. Apparently, it started at 6:11. Right, 2 blocks, Madison Avenue, between 52nd and 53rd. Right here, a young gunman entered the building. Probably had CTE. He was after the NFL. You can't diagnose CTE until after you're dead. But suicide note in his pocket said that never go against the NFL. And, I had Aaron Hernandez, who we had the 2 not guilties on after he had already been found guilty of murder. But worst case of CTE that's ever been seen. It's a terrible, terrible disease. Unfortunately, this young man took the lives of 5 people and an off-duty police officer who was just about to have a child, an immigrant, by the way, from Bangladesh, who worked his way into the New York City police officers, doing everything he was doing, working a second job. And we can't say enough of condolences about what happened to the families right here. And what was so startling is just an hour earlier, right on 6th Avenue, right at the same location, but on 6th Avenue, 2 blocks up, they were filming A Devil Wears Prada 2. And so, you have this massive group of people here celebrating New York, and then you have that terrible tragedy. And we decided, even though we were on there, you and I were texting each other, not to say anything about it, wait until everything had calmed down, and so that there wouldn't be such misinformation that was leaked.
Yeah, that was, it was so new, it would have been a little irresponsible to start spewing some of the earliest details. Horrible story. A guy just trying to make ends meet. He's got his wife pregnant with the 3rd child. He's on the force 3 years, so he's not making a fortune. He's working this off-duty job in security at this building. It had to think one of the safest, simplest jobs on Park Avenue. A building
Madison.
Park Avenue.
Yeah.
And it had, all of these big players, including the NFL, but also, investment firms, and, not the kind of place you think you're going to be doing.
And the poor people are just at work and stepping off an elevator. You never think about it. But I just wanted to mention it because I didn't want people to think that we were callous last night. As I could hear it and knew something was going on right outside behind us. So with that, we do have a couple other rip and reads that aren't, while we wait people to get on, because we have a great show tonight. One of them has to do with, Norfolk County is back, and Karen Reed asked for 2 more cell phones back. They took them from her when they were trying to indict her for witness intimidation. Again, never-ending saga. We'll be covering a lot more. We'll be up in Massachusetts covering a lot more, because on Brian Walsh also, the Commonwealth filed their response to motions for discovery. I don't know what discovery they could respond to and deny. I mean, it's ridiculous. And for exhaustive DNA testing. You may not need it after that warrant was denied. The suppression motion was denied. All those searches are coming in. But we're going to talk about that.
Most of it,
on Thursday.
On that Karen Reed, they had one motion for the car and 1 cell phone, but then on a second, remember when they tried to charge her with witness intimidation? That's when they took 2 more phones. So 2 different motions to get the return of this personal property. The second one just being filed. And
then let me do mine, and then you can end with the one that's going to bring us right into who our guests are tonight and what we're going to talk about. This is one. This is dozens of New York legal cannabis dispensaries will have to shut down due to proximity error, state says. This is just goes to show you why people hate the government, why we can have conspiracy theories, why we don't trust what's being said. Because here, the government allowed all these people, lots of people, to have legal license to sell marijuana. You know why they're going to be shut down and why their licenses are going to be renewed? Because you can't have a dispensary within 500 feet of the school. So when the state measured, they measured 500 feet from the door of the school. And guess what? The law says 500 feet from the property line. So they're going to make all these people shut down. And this is why we hate the government, okay? And this is why a lot of people hate the government, because it affects even little things like this, not including what we're going to talk about tonight. So just put that in your hoppers, everybody. Let's.
And I'm not
use that.
I'm not pro cannabis or anti. And if I want cannabis, I'll just walk down the streets of Manhattan and get it for free because it's reeks. The town reeks these days. Anyway, Sean P. Diddy Combs case. There has been yet another attempt to get Mr. Combs released prior to his sentencing coming up October 3rd. And the court, it was actually done almost in the form of a letter. Nothing new, except they want to say, hey, here's $50 million. We'll give you $50 million, put his island home up as collateral. But that otherwise, nothing new. The violence issues the court cited the first time, all these other, they're still in play. I don't think there's going to be a thing that changes. But the court, interestingly, to the letter, which was not officially a motion, the court issued an order that the government is to respond to the letter, and they need to do that by this Thursday.
By Thursday, right? And that case, as you know, had the prosecutor was Maureen Comey, who prosecuted, and she's no longer the U.S. attorney, Sean Diddy Combs. Ridiculous way to prosecute, and then and some ridiculous charges, RICO charges, which Doug Weinstein knows about, and then of course she also prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell, who we're going to talk about tonight, and also,
Jeffrey Epstein,
yes. Epstein, who we're going to talk about tonight, and we're pleased to have as our guest, as usual, who's been gracing us and giving us some really fabulous information, and we hopefully that we are helping do, because we really truly back Mark Epstein in his quest to find out what happened to his brother. We think we know, okay? You and I believe that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered, okay?
I think it's all right. It's secretive, but I don't think it's a stretch. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. And then we have also with us Doug Weinstein, who is also is familiar with these type of prosecutions, these government all-out go-out prosecutions, and prosecutors who lie, don't tell you the truth and all. And you've been pretty critical of one person in this all. We're going to hold some of our chats, by the way, and some of our notices to the end here. You've been pretty critical that the current president is kind of shutting down the government, trying to somehow give a pardon, in your opinion, I think, to Ghislaine Maxwell, Doug, in order to get what? So one of the things we're going to talk about is this a way for Mark Epstein not to get the relief he seeks by trying to deal with Ghislaine Maxwell and all? So, Mark, we want to get your take on all of this first, and then we want to get and let Doug comment on this too, because it's important, I think, that people understand it's not just Michael and I, and it's not just me, who's married to Michael Bodden, who watched the autopsy of Mark's brother for him. It's a lot of people out there that are not just us, who really want to get to the truth of the matter. And if she can get a pardon, fine, terrific, wonderful, but not at the expense of maybe exonerating people who are involved, and not at the expense of maybe hiding further how Mark's brother died. Okay, Mark, with that, I'll give the floor over to you.
Well, I'm really concerned with the circumstances of Jeffrey's murder. I don't have much information to give you about Ghislaine and what she might know. I wasn't there. I wasn't part of what they were involved with. So I can't really add much to that. I have neither. I don't know. I don't wish her any harm. I hope she can get the best deal she can. Anybody can. But I don't really have information about that to give you.
What if they want to give her a pardon to say, well, she's been pretty vocal and she said that your brother did not commit suicide. What if they want to give her a pardon to say, now they've shown me information and I agree that he did. I mean, what if that's a part of this whole thing that's going on?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate on it. I mean, I would wait to see what she says if they're going to give her a pardon. And when she says something, then I'll take that and then look at that and see if I think she's telling the truth or not, and see if it jives with the information and the facts that we have already.
Well, Mark, part of my concern is she's a liar, and she has been a liar. She admits to being a liar. So, assuming you can believe anything she says, what would you like to hear from her that would help in your quest?
Well, if she has any information regarding who might have wanted Jeffrey dead or who could have orchestrated this. I mean, look, I'm not trying to be political here, but the president of the United States it has probably told more lies than Ghislaine has. That people still listen to him. So should we discount everything he says because, his history? It becomes difficult.
Doug, you've been pretty critical, and we're not trying to be. This is not a political show, but you've been pretty critical about this whole thing.
Well, I mean, anyone that doesn't suspect that something nefarious may be going on in this meeting between a leader in Main Justice and Miss Maxwell has, buried their head in the sand for the last 10 years. I think that. Look, I don't like to spread conspiracy theories, right? But I guess I'm about to, because I'm going to be very curious as to what she says. And if she says something to the effect of, President Trump had nothing to do with anything, he didn't know what was going on. And by the way, just so happens that X, Y, and Z, who are enemies of President Trump, had heavy involvement, that type of thing. And then you see she's granted a pardon. I mean, don't we have to be suspicious of that? Especially given, again, she may come out and tell the truth right now. People turn around, right? In YSL, Rudy lied like crazy to the cops, then he gets on the stand and tells the truth. So people can tell the truth. But that would be terribly suspicious. I'd love to, was it Dick Durbin? Who was it that was requesting video of the meeting? Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see that video as well. And if there's nothing to hide, let's see some of that video.
Yeah, he sent a letter to Todd Blanche, who was the deputy AG that did the 2-day interview, and he's itemized a number of things that he would like explained, if not seen on video. He says, to my point, why believe her? Because she's said under oath that I'll lie under oath. So he wants to know what happened. I know he'd love any recordings, transcripts, reports, all of this he put in the form of a letter. And, she was given limited immunity, but nobody knows what that was.
Right.
So he wants to know exactly what that means. It's kind of a vague term. So we're not sure. And that's what Durbin wants. He wants that kind of information. He wants the transparency. It just seems, like you say, Doug, a little shady that this 2-day meeting should come up as it has in the timing of other national events.
Yeah, and Durbin's going to get none of that. I mean, God bless him for asking for it. You can always ask. But I imagine the DOJ is going to tell him to pound sand.
Speaking about limited immunity, it was a brief filed yesterday, and we did, but we were very late, asking David Oscar Marcus, he's the lawyer for Miss Maxwell, to come on the show. He filed a petition for a certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court from the Second Circuit. And basically, the argument is that and it has to do with the prior deal that was given to Mr. Epstein that said everyone that is associated with him has immunity. So the word immunity it goes back a long time with regard to this Florida deal. And he's arguing that deal applied, that she could not be prosecuted, and the government's saying, no, one district can't bind another district. So, Doug, explain to us, because then I want to ask Mark a question, explain to us what's the difference with that kind of immunity that was granted Mr. Epstein back and supposedly all of his associates versus this, whatever this limited immunity is that Todd Blanche and the DOJ gave Miss Maxwell so that she would talk to them for 2 days.
Well, this, of course, the limited immunity, as Michael just said, we don't know the breadth and the scope of that. This, we actually have a copy of the agreement because it's been, it's public, it's been filed with the court. And that agreement, by the way, this whole case with her before the Supreme Court, to me, is a contract issue. It's a contract issue. Now, the Supreme Court, I think, needs to get involved to deal with the split between the circuits. But yeah, there's the language. I can read it here. In consideration,
I've even
right?
highlighted it for you.
Yeah, this couldn't be more clear. We'll get into it. In consideration of Epstein's agreement to plead guilty and to provide compensation in the manner described above, if Epstein successfully fills all the terms and conditions of the agreement, here's the key part. The United States also agrees that it will not institute any criminal charges against any potential co-conspirators of Epstein, including but not limited to 4 redacted individuals. That language is amazingly broad, and we can get into a tedious, boring, and detailed discussion of the contract interpretation, rules that would explain why that is just as broad as it sounds. I think if you read all the briefs, if you read her petition, which is very well drafted, if you read the government's opposition, and then if you read her reply brief, I really think the Supreme Court should take this up for the simple reason that we have a circuit split and it needs to be resolved so that all criminal defendants can understand when they sign an agreement what they're getting.
I think, and I agree there's a split. I think it's a majority of the jurisdictions say it doesn't cover the broad swath, right?
Right.
And so I would be surprised, maybe because of the political overtones, maybe the Supreme Court will take a look at this, maybe. I think the odds are against it. Of course, I could say that with virtually every case. 5,000 requests are made a year.
Yeah.
About 100 are granted. So it's safe for me to say, odds are against it. But I think because it's not so evenly split, there is a majority of jurisdictions that say, no, if we do it in the Southern District of Florida, we're talking Southern District of Florida. Now, maybe from a contract standpoint, we should have used that language instead of United States.
Yeah.
But is the court going to construe that kind of vagueness against the drafter? I don't know.
Well, I don't think it's
possible.
vague. I have to disagree with you, Michael, about your use of the word vague. I don't think it's vague at all. There's different terminology used throughout this draft. If you go, I'm sure you've gone back and read it. There's different language used in the draft to distinguish between the United States and the Southern District of Florida. And this language here, as I understand the briefs, this language where it is very broadly worded as the United States is different from an earlier draft that was specifically limited to the Southern District of Florida. So here, Mr. Epstein bargained with the DOJ, which of course you do in the course of this. He bargained with the DOJ to get very broad immunity, and I would say again, across the United States. You know, everyone cites Scalia for this contract interpretation. And when you use different terms within a contract, they should be accorded different meanings. And the parties could have definitely limited it if they wanted to. But here's a circumstance where they specifically broadened the language out.
And that is interesting, although I would argue that that's extraneous outside the document, and so it's not going to be allowed. But Mark, let me ask you, didn't they try these arguments in the cases, the New York cases against your brother?
I believe they were going to use the non-prosecution agreement.
Obviously, they never got quite that far, but I mean, I thought it had been addressed at some point.
I know they were talking about it. I wasn't involved with the day-to-day of his defense. You know, I'm not a defense attorney, and that's not my position. But I know that was going to be part of their defense. One of his attorneys told me that.
Yeah. And Michael, if you want me to just respond to that, I can tell you, at least based on my review, that they did raise it. In Mr. Epstein's case in New York. And the issue there, and I believe they even got a ruling on it, but don't hold me that. But there's a distinction between the scope of the immunity, the non-prosecution agreement that applied to Mr. Epstein and the scope that applied to the co-conspirators, because Epstein's was specifically limited to the Southern District. It was not broad. It was not the United States. So his bargain provided a greater geographic scope of immunity to his alleged co-conspirators than it did for himself.
So that sounds to me, I mean, let's get back to the issue that I've been interested in, which is if we're all talking about this, right? And what you just said, Doug, makes it clear to me that then if there's other people involved that are higher ups and there's people, they're looking for names, everyone wants the list, that it seems to me that there's a broader group of people that would want to see Mr. not Mark, but Jeffrey Epstein off in prison. And the way this has happened with regard to everything that we have talked about in the past, Mark, I think this kind of is a way to try to take away from trying to find out what happened to your brother. I mean, that's my view.
Yeah, because we get stymied. We can't get any answers about Jeffrey's, what happened to him. We were trying to find additional video footage, which they were telling me doesn't exist. And now they release video footage. We're trying to get the PCR report, which the report the fire department EMTs fill out on every case, and that's gone missing in the fire department's computer system. I haven't been able to get the medical records from the hospital. It's just that if this was just purely a suicide, why is this being so difficult? Why are they hiding all of this information?
Yeah, and I asked and I put out those questions when you were on last time, the questions that you have that have not been answered, which are really good questions. And then we saw that stupid video that they released. To me, that if anything, supports the fact that your brother was offed.
Exactly. There's nothing to show that he committed suicide. And the most important point is that when they did the autopsy the day after his death, both pathologists, Dr. Bodden and Kristen Roman, came out of the autopsy saying it looked too much like a homicide to call it a suicide. And then you get everybody else, like the chief medical examiner, Barbara Sampson, saying it's a suicide without any explanation really of why. And again, I have to point out, she never saw the body. So how can she determine it was a suicide when the two highly qualified pathologists that did the autopsy said they wouldn't call it a suicide because it looked too much like a homicide? And then you get Kash Patel saying, it's suicide when you see one. So I question, how many suicides has he seen?
Dr. Patel.
It's just this stupidity going on here.
So, Mark, since we last spoke, and since this big dump of amazing footage and non-information came out, have you ramped up your efforts? Have you seen any progress of any kind, any responses, any different than you had before?
Well, more and more people are contacting me because they're concerned about this too. It's not just because of my brother, but an American citizen was killed in a prison under federal protection. And then, if it's, the fact also that this was never investigated as a potential homicide, because by calling it a suicide, it shuts down any investigation. There's lots of things they should have done if they were investigating it as a homicide. And more people are realizing that, and they're contacting me and they're questioning me, as you are.
Doesn't it seem? Let me ask both Mark and Doug this. Doesn't it seem that this going after Maxwell in this amount, this hard amount, right? We now have a subpoena for to appear before the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform that her attorney has answered, which obviously she cannot testify before unless she has immunity and all. There's a letter about that we don't have to go through completely. We have the petition of the government to release some government transcripts that was denied in Florida. Their briefs were due in the Southern District today, but they're not going to release everything. But the fact that they're trying to get her in some way to say something, it sounds to me that something has to be for somebody's self-protection and also to try to stymie Mark more. Doug, let me put that to you first.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. The government, it's not in the interest of this administration for more information to come out regarding Jeffrey Epstein and who he may have been involved with. It just isn't. It's just obvious that it is not. There's too much involvement of the current president with Mr. Epstein back in the day. So, and this other business, the request to release the grand jury transcript, that's a farce, because anyone that knows the law and knows the judge is not going to be allowed to release that. So it is weak. It's like, let's make it look like we're attempting to be transparent, knowing that our request is definitely going to be denied, which actually just, to me, makes everything look even worse. So it's a terrible game I think the government is playing right now.
I was surprised that in the North, in the New York version of that request, that the court's entertaining it. You know, they're asking for briefs. They're asking for a letter from Ghislaine Maxwell about some of the information she provided to the grand jury so they could somehow coalesce that. But I don't know if that's all just playing the game, because the ultimate answer is still going to be the same. It's, you know, grand jury stuff is sacrosanct. You know,
here's by the way, here's a copy. You can see the federal in Florida. Here's a copy of the ruling that denied to unseal the grand jury, and plus the unseal the grand jury clearances. Plus, it wasn't everything. They were just on the unseal some things, but not everything. And that takes us again away. If we're going to be talking about her, and good, if she can get a deal, fine, terrific. Because quite frankly, if she can get a deal, absolutely. But the reason why Jeffrey Epstein, in my opinion, had to be killed is that he had information that some people didn't want out. Now, she may not even know what that information is, but since she's left, they're going to try to get her to say something, which may satisfy some people. But I think in doing so, this just widens, what should be the focus, which is one, on the victims, and two, on who killed Jeffrey Epstein. Because if you find out who killed Jeffrey Epstein, then you're going to know why this is so important to have this kind of maybe deal with Ghislaine Maxwell, in my opinion. That's all I say. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is, if assuming, for the sake of this conversation, that Jeffrey was killed, and if this was a real homicide investigation underway, they would look for who would benefit by his death, who would have the ability to orchestrate getting him hit in a federal prison, and who would have the ability to have the DOJ cover this stuff up, and come out with a report with a lot of misinformation in there and lacking information. Like, you never hear in the DOJ report, it never states that the two pathologists said it looked more like a suicide than a homicide. It's completely glossed over and swept under the carpet. They just want to call it a suicide and move on. But the facts, like I said, don't add up.
Mark, you got to be encouraged, and I know you said people have reached out to you, but when we talked, what was it, 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, I never thought we'd still be having this conversation or anything like it 2 weeks after that big info dump and the big video. But people are up in arms on both sides of the aisle, even though we're not talking about this politically. That's a fact. And so that must encourage you, at least give you hope that we're going to get some answers.
Well, it is. I've been contacted by journalists literally all over the world now that want to hear about this and are questioning this. So it's not just a local issue anymore. This is international.
Right. As well, it should be international. Now, the other thing is when we talked, we saw that sort of ridiculous video and the gap of 1 minute and 3 seconds, and the fact that you can't see anything. And, we also talked, just so everyone knows, that the cells were not automatically locked. There were keys to it, that we don't know who was in, and they still haven't provided the information of who was in the other cells in the tier that Jeffrey was in. That information hasn't been provided. We don't see the video of what happened when Jeffrey was taken to the infirmary. We don't know the names of the people in those cells. They were dispersed all over the place. Who are they? Why are they scared to come forward? Why aren't they coming forward? All right. Do they think that somehow? Do you think somehow, Doug, that they think that with Ghislaine Maxwell can suffocate all of this discussion that we're having? I mean, he can't even get the 911 call. All right,
Yeah, the whole thing stinks, and I imagine that Miss Maxwell, having seen what happened to her, her accomplice, I guess, alleged accomplice, seeing what happened to him, has got to be nervous, right? I would think that she's going to say whatever the government wants her to say. in order not just to perhaps get her freedom, but to protect her life. It's a scary situation that she is in.
Yeah.
These
So
are people that have access to everything.
Yeah, and on that point, Doug, it seems to me you can't take her at her word. You're going to have some level of corroboration, or at least use what she says as a jumping off point for further investigation. But you can't just take what she says as fact.
Well, I think that I'm assuming if she says what the administration wants her to say, they'll be like, okay, you heard it. We're done. As I keep saying, let's move on.
You mean kind of like, here's the video, there's nothing else to see here? Like that?
Yeah, the incredibly misleading video, by the way.
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
Useless.
And also, remember, this doesn't come out of the blue. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell, for those that were around, he allegedly committed or killed himself by jumping off his yacht, the lady Ghislaine, some years back. And then there was a coroner's inquest in the Canary Islands. There were several pathologists. His body never was brought back to England, so they couldn't do the inquest in England. Mm-hmm. And then he's been buried in Israel and Jerusalem. So there's no exhumation that's ever going to happen. And she believes that he was murdered. So how you're around for various reasons. As if she's around someone, she believes her dad was murdered, and now she believes the person that she was with was murdered. That she has been jailed for, with regard to the 5 counts of child trafficking, of sex trafficking, mm-hmm. right? But I still think that we're talking about her, and I think, Michael, you may be right. We're talking about her, but if she comes out and says whatever the administration wants her to say, we still have Mark sitting out here, and we're trying to promote the fact that he needs answers to these questions, and she can't give them. As a matter of fact, if she gives the information that I think that the administration wants, it's going to shut down. It's going to try to shut down this more, and I think that everybody's going to be in greater arms. Maybe that would help you more, Mark.
Well, I hope so. And there's other groups that now want to start pushing to get more information with FOIA requests, and they're looking to maybe sue the government to get them if we don't get the answers we're looking for.
Yeah, you do. You need to.
More and more people are jumping on the.
I mean, the sad reality is it may just take until there's a different administration in that will not throw up. Because Mark, I mean, I know you've already faced it, and you're just going to continue to face roadblocks, often probably illegal and unconstitutional ones. I think under the present administration, because they have no interest in any of this information coming out. Actually, and it's sad, I would bet probably no administration, sadly, has an interest in this information coming out.
And Michael Bryan, I think you have a clip that's kind of interesting.
Let me see if I can find that for you. It was a couple of days ago, and this is Trump as he was about to leave for Ireland, I believe. Let me see if I can cue this up. It's an odd source. I'm giving myself an excuse for not being able to get it to properly play, but let me give it. And he mentions there's an off-camera question about a pardon as it relates to Ghislaine, and then there's a little bit more. Let's see if I can get this to play properly here. Stand by, everybody.
Todd Blanche is a great gentleman. He's a great man. He's a great lawyer. He's got a great heart. But he's over there now. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I certainly can't talk about pardons.
Can you trust what she's telling him? She's a convicted trafficker who's eager to get out of prison.
Well, he's a professional lawyer. I think he's been through things like this before. But you should focus on Clinton. You should focus on the president of Harvard, the former president of Harvard. You should focus on some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys lived with Jeffrey Epstein. I sure as hell didn't. Thank you very much.
Okay, so distraction, anyone? Yeah, there's the take. This was while the questioning was going on between Todd Blanche and Ghislaine Maxwell. So he's thrown out a couple of options. Apparently, he has a list. Nobody else has a list. What do you think, Doug?
I mean, it's hard for me to. Well, so many people have said there's a list, right? Our current attorney general has said that she had the list on her desk. So where's the list? And by list, I don't know exactly what
I
that
know.
means.
I tell
but
people don't get caught up with the literal term.
yeah,
The
I'm
list.
just using it as a shorthand.
It's a pile
But
of information in some
right,
form. How about that?
right. There's some information out there. She said she had it. Let's see it.
Yeah. And Mark, what efforts are you using to try to get even that, that kind of information? People who are friends of or have some connection to. I mean, do you have any inside track on any of that?
Not really, because I've come up against roadblocks, but now that other people are joining in with more knowledge about this than me, well, it looks like we may be starting to keep the push up. That's my whole goal is to keep the question out there. I don't want the people that were responsible for his death to think they got away with it, scot-free, and I want the people of the country to understand that here was a guy, as I understand that he wasn't he didn't have a big fan club. Yeah, because what he was charged with, but he was still an American citizen in jail that was killed to quiet him. So again, who was responsible?
Yeah.
Mark, I don't think you ever have to worry about questions about your brother's death going away unless they're eventually fully answered. This is now in the public discourse and will remain, I would suspect, forever, unless you get answers.
Well, I'll still try to get answers.
Yeah.
And Mark had a number of questions, and we posted them first last time that he was on. Who was the unnamed guard number one? There's in the reports. There's 2 unnamed guards. Guard number 2. Where is the 911 call? Where is the PCR? Where is the footage of Mr. Epstein being removed from his cell and taken to the infirmary? Why was there this charade of pretending he wasn't dead for many hours? Who was in the infirmary? Was there a video taken by a handheld camera phone of Mr. Epstein on his cell being removed to the infirmary? Who are the other detainees and inmates in the tier? Where are the interviews, written statements of the at least 14 other detainees, inmates on the Epstein tier? When did they arrive at the tier, and where are they now? Does that cover some of the questions that we've talked about, Mark, that we're trying to keep up that pressure on?
Yes, it does. And more video footage. Where's the video footage from the infirmary or on the route between the tier where Jeffrey was to the infirmary?
Right.
Who made the call to move Jeffrey's body to the infirmary against all policy? He wasn't supposed to be moved until the medical examiner got there because he was clearly dead, for at least 2 hours. They tried to revive him. They tried doing CPR in the cell. They tried to use the defibrillator on him. And it said, don't bother because, basically this guy's dead. So why the charade of trying to make it look like he was alive or revivable? Who was calling the shots in the prison that morning?
And where's the DNA testing for the alleged noose, right? Where's that? Right. Where's that? Nothing has been released to you. Nothing. And you keep getting roadblocks. And initially they told you they couldn't release anything because it was an active investigation, but now they've closed everything and they still won't release anything to you.
Basically, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I know you've read the Office of the Inspector General report from 2023. Give me your take on that. Anything in it that you think was properly done? I mean, it's got a lot of holes.
But one of the big questions, for 4 years almost, we were trying to find out what position Jeffrey was in when he was found. And we weren't able to get answers to those questions. The guards, Tova Noel and Michael Thomas, refused to speak about anything. And in the report, it finally came out how they said he was found. They said he was in a seated position with his leg extended out, hanging by the neck. And we know, like I said, he was dead for at least 2 hours, but he was probably dead for longer because he was relatively clean shaven. If he was alive until 4-something in the morning, he'd have more of a stubble as a beard because they shaved Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays there. So he probably died earlier in the night, not 4 o'clock. And if that was the case, then he should have lividity. He should have like blood pooling in his buttocks or the back of his legs, and they're relatively clean. He has pooling in the upper back, but that could have formed after when they laid him down. So that's not proof of anything. But the fact that his buttocks and his legs are clean from avidity, because the pooling of the blood under the skin is called avidity, that's questionable. You know, was he really in that position when he was found?
Yeah.
And also,
yeah.
somebody just pointed out when they were wheeling him out of the prison on a gurney, and he was intubated, and they were squeezing the air into his balloons. Someone noticed that his hands were closed on there, as if rigor mortis was already setting in. So why would they try to make it look like he was alive or salvageable? It's just just part of the mystery.
Yeah, and Diana Kay does have an interesting question. She wants me to ask Doug about this. Doug, funny, the first time Mr. Epstein was convicted, there was only one person who helped a prosecutor convict him. Ask Doug if he knows who that was.
Oh, is this a stump the Doug question? You win. I don't know who that person was.
Okay, all right. And Skyhopper Media says, hey, we need to offer a large reward. Skyhopper, by the way, is one of our 16-year-old kids. I don't say kids. Students who has gotten her school to watch and is interested in public service and trying to help people. And she says, if you offer a reward, people will squeal. Well, the problem is like you can also offer a reward like a pardon, and people may squeal, but they may squeal in interest that they feel that they're then protected and that they're not in danger of also being, Yeah.
Some people have even more money, and some people have things that are more valuable than money. So this is not a simple reward type of case. Good idea.
Well, it's interesting that the government is opposing this petition, this for cert, because if you think about it, if they would essentially not oppose it or weakly oppose it and cert is granted, then you might get a situation where the Supreme Court takes up the case and they rule, oh, okay, this non-prosecution agreement does apply to her and she needs to walk. But the problem is, I think that just trashes it has too many ripples through the rest of their department.
Well, it also has ripples to the people who are victims and feel they're victims of her. But if they did that and then she spoke, then you can pretty much get a lot of information out of her without feeling like that it was a trade-off. She got a pardon, and therefore she's then lying and covering people to get a pardon, or covering to save her life because she just wants to get out of there all. So that's
Mark, that assumes that this administration, with their unitary executive theory, where essentially I am the state, I am the DOJ, has any interest in the victims in this case. And I don't believe that this president does.
Interesting.
Hey, Mark, I would assume, however it were to play out, if Ghislaine Maxwell gave information to the government that led to significant evidence of who offed your brother, which is what I think happened, I think you'd be fine with that no matter what the deal. Yes?
Sure. Yes. Absolutely.
So I don't know. It could be a satisfying experience for some, even if it's not the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I'm just looking for information about my brother's murder. If people, nothing against anyone in particular, but if people got in trouble for doing things they shouldn't do, I always believe there's, consequences and ramifications for people's actions. So if people get in trouble, even at Ghislaine, if convicted, she's found guilty, well, she's paying the price for doing what she shouldn't have done. And if other people get hurt by what they did, well, that's their problem. I'm not really that concerned about that. I'm interested in the circumstances of my brother's murder.
Do you think she knows who did it, or just knows people that might have been in a position that would want to do it?
If anyone does, I think she does. She was around a lot back, in the 90s and the early 2000s, in that period of time when this was all going on. I mean, look, that's why she's in prison now. So I think if that she would have a good idea of what was taking place, she would know. She was around quite a lot.
So Doug,
I'm sorry.
No,
I just
Doug,
sadly don't think any administration of either party has an interest in the truth coming out in this case. The sweetheart deal Acosta made was under Bush, I guess Bush 43. Then nobody did anything when there was a Democratic president in power. there's too many powerful people all around, both Democratic and Republican, wealthy people, and wealth crosses party lines that don't want this to come out. So that's the sad situation, and I guess I'm becoming more cynical as I get older.
It happened.
I think we all are, and the problem is that we can FOIA all we want. We know that if you do a FOIA request to the federal government, unlike with the state of New York, it takes 10, sometimes 12 years, and what you get back is I don't even have this. This would be all black. Everything is black. You get back crap. Okay. They don't give it to you. They're supposed to give you. They're supposed to be open government. They don't give it to you. So we can FOIA all we want, which I know some of it's been done, some of it's going to be done, but it should be out there. I mean, first of all, as the brother, the only surviving relative of somebody, whether you like him or don't like him, whether he committed a crime or didn't commit a crime, Mark Epstein has a right to know what happened to his brother. He has a right to the hospital records. He's the next of kin. He has a right to hear the 911 call. He has a right to know this stuff. And they won't speak to him. They won't give it to him. They won't give it to his lawyers. They just won't give it to him. And the Stonewall, you can see, is ridiculous. And you have to wonder why this administration is going so hard right now after Ghislaine Maxwell. And the only thing that they could give her is to get an out of jail card free for something that they want. All right. That's really what it comes down to. And it's not giving Mark Epstein what he wants, in my opinion. Okay.
Hey, Mark, let me ask you, you've made the formal request, the FOIA, right? Are you getting the required response? Because they do have to respond in some way with an answer as to when they'll provide the information if it's available.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. When after the death, Bill Barr came out and said that he saw that nobody went in or out of the tier, and he convinced them that it was a suicide. I mean, as ridiculous as that is, because it totally ignores the fact that there were other prisoners on the tier that could have killed Jeff without having to go in and out of the tier. But so I asked for the video footage from that camera, whatever camera he was referring to, from 10 o'clock the night before until the next morning after they took Jeff off the tier, because that would have shown, if he saw that nobody went in or out, then it should have shown who the last people on the tier was, and it would have shown when they took Jeff's body off of the tier the next morning. So originally, I was told, they responded, that I couldn't get that footage because it was part of an ongoing investigation. And I understand that. So after the investigation was over, I asked for that footage again. And I was now told that out of the two cameras that were working, it doesn't show the area I was asking about. And I was very specific. I wanted to see the footage from the camera Bill Barr referred to. And I was told the cameras don't show that area. And I have that in writing from the Bureau of Prisons. And now they release a video, which I don't know if that's the same one Bill Barr was referring to. But it's, first I couldn't get it, and then it doesn't exist. So this is what I've been up against. And again, for the PCR report, the pre-hospital care report that the EMTs fill out, I went to the fire department headquarters in downtown Brooklyn, where all of this is stored. And the clerk there had said there's no record of that call in their computers. And they fill out this PCR form on every call they go on. That's just routine procedure. And he was stymied too. And I have it on videotape. I videotape my encounter there. And the PCR report for Jeffrey Epstein on August 10th does not exist in their records.
Well, I would suggest, Mark, that you add Ashley Merchant to your team, because she is the queen of FOIA requests, and she is tenacious and relentless.
And successful.
Yeah. At least against the state of Georgia, I would imagine she would bring the same thing if she already hasn't against the U.S. government.
Yeah, put her in touch with me. I'd love to talk to her.
Yeah, for those who might remember, she was involved representing one of your co-counsel in the YSL case, right? And Brian Steele. And then she had her own thing going on because she was trying to find out where Fani Willis, the DA for the county, was spending all this money. She did a FOIA request, which got, handled. I'll put it that way, kind of like you were handled, Mark. And then she brought a lawsuit. Bottom line, she got what she could get and 50-some thousand in attorney's fees for her trouble. So very successful. And it's something a lot of people won't go to the effort to do because it's a pain in the ass. But you got a pain in the ass, bring in Ashley Merchant.
Oh, yeah. She's a dog with a bone.
But I just don't think this stuff exists anymore. I mean, I think that's the
Well,
problem. I think
I mean, that could be, but at least put their their feet to the fire.
And I think Mark has been doing that. Mark has
Yeah.
lawyers. Mark has good lawyers, and he's been doing that. And Mark is on this tour. I mean, he's not hiding. And he's this is my brother. I want to know what happened to him. As we all would, right? This is it. And what I want to do, what Michael Bryan and I want to do, Doug, is we want to find out who the people on the tier were. Simple as that. Because didn't in that report, didn't two of the prisoners say they saw two shadowy figures or something, and they didn't know who they were, and yet
somewhere in the 12:30 to 1 o'clock period.
Yeah, I think there was something like that.
Yeah, and it was after the guards ultimately admitted they never moved after 10:30, doing their half-hour rounds. So who was it?
Who were these people, right? And then they had to come from. They had to come from the other. They had to come. One person had to come from maybe one of the cells, because remember, the cells are key cells. They're not automatic locking cells. I mean, knowing from Aaron Hernandez, remember, he was in prison for murder when we got him, and then got the acquittals for the double homicide. He had privileges. He was able to go down the tier. He was able to cook soup. His cell was open a lot. There were cells that were open. And that's the way people don't understand that cells are open. And if you want to open a cell and you want to put somebody in there before, Jeffrey didn't arrive there till when? About 10 o'clock at night, Mark?
Yeah, that's when when they locked up the tier. He was out a little bit before. He made a phone call from the shower area. He was given a phone to use to call somebody. He's the record said he was calling his mother, but our mother died in 2004. So it's known that he called his girlfriend. So the question becomes, so how did he get a telephone? Probably who did he pay to get a telephone to make a call?
That happens in everything. But anyone could have been in that tier before he got there. It doesn't have to be somebody came through the camera. Somebody could have been in that tier before he got there. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, and there are also
alone in the cell.
A ton of blind spots too. A ton of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one they just paused that video. I think it was on CBS. Just something new today, where they said that you can get into that area and up the steps into the tier area without being seen by that camera.
Yeah. If you look at that report I mentioned, Mark, if you look at it again, they have some great diagrams, some great still shots, and there is a spot just where the short flight of stairs is leading up to the tier. You can come in from below that to the right and never be seen, ever.
And then there's a person that comes out of the whole area in a black hoodie and a complete black outfit, including gloves. Remember, this is August, okay? And then hits him to go out the elevator, which takes you outside and all, but comes out from where that tier is. All right. People don't dress like that. Guards don't dress like that in prison. I mean, there's all these things, and all the other guards were asleep. Somebody suggested the guards had been drugged because they all fell asleep or they were shopping. The guards that were there, they didn't do the checks and everything. And wow, all of that leads to not only suspicion, but the fact that Mark can't get these documents. And now we add now, I think President Trump, I don't want to be political, because he said, well, maybe the Democrats added names to the list. So what are we talking about here? Does that mean that he thinks that the Democrats added his name into a list, and therefore he wants Ghislaine Maxwell to say it's not him, and then he lets her out? I mean, this is what's going on here. This is ridiculous, the lack of transparency.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of the sad facts that I hope this brings out is that, Mark's brother is not the only one that has suffered and not been accorded the treatment and the care that the government owes to people that are incarcerated. He's but one of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds every year that die or are killed in prison under suspicious circumstances, when it's the prison's job to take care of these folks and keep them alive. And it's just good that Mark and I guess a lot of the public and you two have the resources to keep this in the public eye and attempt to get to the bottom of it, because too many people cannot.
Also, the thing to mention is that when Jeffrey was killed in prison, he was awaiting trial. He wasn't convicted again. He wasn't found at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, it was not in a lot of people's interests for that trial to take place, I'm sure.
For the same reasons we're talking about the list or no list, or Ghislaine Maxwell is answering questions. But I agree with you, Doug, completely. This is a bipartisan pile of shit. There are people's names on every side of the aisle that don't want to be associated with what happened in Jeffrey Epstein's world. And I think no matter who's in power, they're going to be massaging the situation to protect themselves.
That's exactly right. And if there's some spinoff from that where they protect people they'd rather not protect, so be it. They're watching each other's backs, I think, at this point. And they've been for years, I believe.
So if she gets a pardon, let me ask you all this. Let me go round table. Do you think that she would speak to either you, Doug, Mark, about this, about who could possibly be somebody who wanted to kill Mark Epstein's brother? Do you think that she'd talk to us?
If it got out, I would like to speak to her. I mean, I knew Ghislaine well back in the 90s. We spent a lot of time together with my brother. I saw her frequently. So we got along. I wouldn't mind speaking to her.
Do you think she'd speak to you? Or do you think one of the conditions of the pardon is that she says nothing about? I'm thinking that the condition of the pardon is that she exonerates somebody in power now, and that she also says, well, now you've shown me all this stuff. I'm going to take back to that. I think that Mr. Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. I think I'll agree with the administration that this was a suicide. I think those are the two big things that they may want, along with something else. But that's my view. I mean, I round table, I don't know how you all feel.
What do you think, Doug?
I think that she will have the unwritten agreement that she exonerates everybody that they ask her to. He wasn't murdered. That she, exactly like Linda said, I've seen evidence. I don't believe she was murdered. I believe he was murdered. I believe it was a suicide. I think she's just going to go with the marching orders because, I mean, nobody wants to be in prison. So I think she'll continue down that path, sadly, but maybe not. Maybe because of the relationship that Mark had previously had with her, he'll get some truth out of her.
And that could be a sticking point. If they don't want her to talk, and that's part of the package, maybe she won't agree to that part of the package. But I don't know. Like you say, Doug, prison is quite the motivator.
It is.
And if somebody, look, I'll tell you what you need. It'll be the truth, and I will talk to nobody else. Where do I sign?
Well, yeah. Look at the lies people agreed to in plea agreements in order to walk out of jail.
Yeah.
So Mark, we have this question from this is interesting, from Lucia Harris, one of our followers for a long time. Isn't the body of a deceased person, even in prison, turned over to the family for burial, autopsy, cremation? What was done with Mr. Epstein's body? If you want to answer it, you can. If you don't, you don't have to.
That I don't discuss at all.
Okay, great. All right, that's so, and I think that's fair because there's a lot of people, and also we have Mark behind an icon, a little avatar here, because while we may know who Mark is, a lot of people do not. And quite frankly, he is digging to try to find out who killed his brother. Okay, let's remember that. He is digging and he's not stopping, and he shouldn't be stopping. And so we want to make sure that Mark stays alive, because quite frankly, I don't trust anybody anymore. Okay. And as to Madeira Beach caregiver, who is our hospice nurse, Madeira Beach, my husband actually stayed in Mark's place to see the body of Mr. Epstein by being at the original autopsy. So, family members shouldn't, it was more important for somebody who was looking for forensic clues, I think, Mark, right? To make sure that your brother's body was seen appropriately, because the forensic clues would have led you to all of these questions that you have, in addition to all the questions you had before. Like, no one, do you know how, for everyone watching, do you know how Mark found out his brother was dead? All right, all of you know. Anyone want to answer that? Anyone who's watching this tell me? Anyone want to tell me? He was watching CNN. No one called the next of kin. All right? Think about that. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. Okay. No one called the next of kin.
Yeah, I was having breakfast in a hotel, and CNN was on. And in the middle of breakfast, I saw my brother's picture, and they said Jeffrey Epstein was found dead of an apparent suicide in his cell. That's
I'm
how
so sorry.
Shameful is right. Shameful is right. So we have asked people, anyone out there who knows, and we did have one person who we saw responded to another show with an anonymous name. We've been trying to track him down, who had been in that institution and knew
been on that tier.
And had been on that tier, knew people who were on the tier. We're trying to track him down. We're going to keep on it, but we're asking everyone, if you know anyone who was on that tier, you know, you can email us. You can actually email me through my law office, and that's a secure site, LindaKennyBoddenLaw.com. It's a secure site, and you know, we'll call you. Or if you don't care about your identity, you can email justiceservetv.com. That is not a secure site, but if you want a secure site, you can go through my law office and tell us, because we're trying to find information to help Mark Epstein answer the questions that he so bravely seeks and so importantly seeks. And we don't want to be sidetracked by what's going to happen to Ghislaine Maxwell, because whatever's going to happen to her is going to happen to her pretty soon. We know that she's not going to get the pardon from Florida, the full pardon. We know that. So they want something. Somebody wants something in return, or else they wouldn't be talking to her. And I don't think it's to list all the victims. I don't think that that's the case.
No. It's definitely, it's something mutually beneficial. And the real question is who's going to benefit most by it. Yeah. So Mark, I hope, continue the process there, and we'll keep checking in with you, as this moves forward. I can't help but think that whatever happens with her is going to move the needle for what you need to find out. I just feel that. So,
because people are going to be more upset, right, Doug?
Well, I pray that Michael is right. My fear is actually the opposite, that it will just aid in whatever cover up has been occurring. But I hope that you are right and I am wrong. Certainly for Mark's sake and for the country's sake, because we deserve to know what happened.
Yeah, and he deserves. Joey Kane, by the way, thank you for gifting all those memberships. We didn't show them tonight because we thought this was a conversation that needed to be had. And we want to make sure that everybody digs. The more people that dig, by the way, into this, let me make this, the safer everybody is. The more people that dig, the safer that everybody is. If this gets put to bed and all of a sudden everyone's really happy with whatever happens to Ghislaine Maxwell, regardless of whether she's guilty, not guilty, how you feel about her, and all. If that puts this to rest, puts everything to rest, and no one digs, then no one's safe in this country, and no one in prison is safe, and no one who has any information against people in power is safe. And we want to make sure that this gets solved, and that's why we're going to keep doing these shows and keep adding people to help us, like Doug Weinstein, and suggestions from all of you. Mark, anything else that you want to add before we go?
No, I think we've covered it for tonight. Thank you.
You're the best.
Thank you, sir.
You're the best brother anyone could have.
Good luck, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank
guys.
you, Doug. Appreciate it. Always appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to be on.
Good luck with the trial next week.
Thank you very much.
What's your best guess on how long it's going to go?
2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
2 to 3 weeks.
I'm trying to coordinate a road trip that may encompass your trial and the Adelson trial.
So it's hot and muggy and
that's what I'm
nasty
looking for.
there. So I don't know that this is one you want to put on your August list.
Yeah, that's all right. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So and just give folks the caption again on this and your client.
Yeah, my client is Nicholas Casotis, and it is State v. Casotis in Liberty County, Georgia, about 40 minutes southwest of Savannah.
All right.
So it's been a long time coming. We're really looking forward to the trial.
All right. Well, we will be touching base with you there for sure.
Yeah, and here's where you can find Doug at his website there. And thank you, Kay Schmidt. Thank you, Joey Kane, for the memberships. All right.
See you guys later.
Take care, bud.
Doug. Thank you.
Oops, I just killed off Linda. Hold on, let me find her. There you are. Sorry.
Oh, it killed me off already. Oh my gosh. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about being killed off, right?
Doug hit remove at the same time I did, and I ended up removing you. Apologize. Sorry. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if we have any more answers than questions, except that I do believe that something within the Ghislaine Maxwell process is going to spit out either some answers or some hints, some tips, or further outrage, which may also be productive. Because I tell you right now, if she comes back with some sort of, there's a deal, and mum's the word, and nothing is released as a result, right? We're going to keep investigating, right, with the information she's given. I think that the public's going to be even more outraged.
Yeah,
so
I think everyone's outraged. No one believes that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in jail. And there's going to be a lot of, if she gets a pardon, there's going to be a lot of very upset victims also. Let's remember that.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Because her attorney released a statement. We asked him to come on, but we were a little late. And let me just read it to you to give fair time. No one is above the law, not even the Southern District of New York. Our government made a deal and it must honor it. The United States cannot promise immunity with one hand in Florida and prosecute with the other in New York. President Trump built his legacy in part on the power of a deal, and surely he would agree that when the United States gives its word, it must stand by it. We are appealing not only to the Supreme Court, but to the president himself to recognize how profoundly unjust it is to scapegoat Ghislaine Maxwell for Epstein's crimes, especially when the government promised she would not be prosecuted. And the problem you have there is I don't think the victims agree that she is being scapegoated. So there's going to be a lot of people upset no matter what happens.
No doubt about it. And yeah, we'll see. And we didn't even get to, but James Comer, the congressional committee that has subpoenaed her, was sent a letter by Mr. Marcus saying, look, we understand there's a subpoena. We appreciate that, but there's other stuff. There's a lot of balls in the air here. We have the appeal. We have the DOJ's interest and conversation. Let's not jeopardize all of that by prematurely going in front of Congress. So we'll see. We haven't heard any response from the congressional representative, the chairman, Mr. Comer.
Right.
So,
and they said, by the way, she can't testify right now with all these balls in the air unless you give her immunity. But he's willing to remain open to working with the committee to find a path forward that respects her constitutional rights and enables her to assist the American people and the committee in its important oversight mission. How about assisting in who killed Jeffrey Epstein without oh, we're closing it. That's all.
okay. All right. We aren't answering that question today.
Nope. And
Okay.
maybe never, but we'll keep on it.
So tomorrow night, Kohlberger, a number of documents have been released. We'll get into some of those. And if we've talked to, remember Jodine Weber, who was on a while back. We wanted her to come on. She actually has a very relatable experience. Her daughter is in college and is in that process of move in, move out, move over. And there's a delay between the summer's program and the fall program. And believe me, I've lived it. I get it. So she's not going to be able to come on tomorrow, but we're going to get her back on in a week or so. She's the former FBI.
And we just put some emails out to some people we know that may be talking about that.
And there's her book
about Kohlberger. I mean, it's we want to concentrate again on both the victims and the behavioral science behind it. And I also want to rant a bit because I still believe that the government again didn't get the proper information for taking the death penalty off.
Yep, that was a wimp move. So so you brought it all full circle from your outrage against the pot licensing to your outrage on the deal with Brian Kohlberger. All right then.
Yeah,
perfect.
So I'm a trial attorney.
Okay, you the whole story now it comes full circle.
Yeah. Now, but before we come full circle and we really end this because we want to thank people for watching. We'd like you to hit that. You took us over 25,000. Please hit that subscribe button, the share, the like, and the notify all. It's free. If we had hit, we'd have 1 million subscribers if everybody has been watching our discussions. Would hit that subscribe. And if you hit the like button even before we're on, when that thumbnail goes on, that gets us into the algorithm even beforehand, like it'll be in the Kohlberger algorithm tomorrow, and it'll push us out so other people besides just people who are subscribers will know. And then if you hit it afterwards, of course, is great. And share is also great. We also are on X, as you know, and all. under Justice Serve TV. So we hope we bring you some pretty intellectual discussions, but also things that you all can get that you're interested in. If you have any ideas, and I know I have a lot of stuff, we have been so busy. We have not gotten to who killed Stephanie. We will. I know I have to tape that for you. I have it all ready to go. There's another woman. We've been sending cases in Boston. Another victims whose murders have gone unsolved. Unfair treatment again in Norfolk County. So we have a lot of things you've been sending. Let me tell you that we do have them. I do have them, and we will get to them.
Thank you, Sheila.
But sometimes we're two people. It's not that quick. Next week, by the way, I will be preparing for a matter that I have that's going in federal court. And so you won't see me next week. You may see Michael a little bit.
Might see you on a pre-recorded something. Who knows?
You may see me on a pre-recorded something, but so that's about all. But you may see Michael on somewhere in the worlds too.
Might see that, and depending on what happens, we got all kinds of things happening in the Lawley Proctor Tully extravaganza happening in the one of the many cases out of Norfolk County. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So Koberger Thursday, we're going to in-depth more into Brian Walsh, especially since those searches are now going to be allowed and whether there's issues. Yeah. And Rosemary, and also remember Proctor. Proctor is going to testify next week.
Well, if he can show up. He was on vacation last time.
Yeah, I mean.
Matt Williams, thank you. Factual lie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a lot going on. And Friday is Fridelson.
Yes, we have Fridelson Friday coming up as we get ready for the Donald Adelson trial. That's what I was alluding to with Doug. He's down there in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta on the coast, and not all that crazy far from Tallahassee. So his trial may dovetail with Adelson. In the meantime, on Fridays, we're showing you a little of the testimony from prior trials involving the death of Dan Markel. This week, we have Luis Rivera. He was the lookout guy, the wheelman, and if you believe testimony in the trial just passed, doesn't know much about Charlie or Donna, but he might lay some foundational information for this next trial. So we'll see. But we get into his testimony this Friday.
Yeah. And so we also have a lot of things coming up that we'll be branching out, not just for the Justice Serve TV streaming channel here, but now we are the Justice Serve TV and Brian and Bodden Media Network, because we'll be informing you in the future about new developments that we will have, but you'll all be part of it because you are our Justice Serve TV family, especially if you hit that subscribe, share, like, and notify button.
Appease the YouTube overlords. Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Try to do the right thing. We'll see you next time.
Riding flames, they charge with